welcome back to Sheep to Shepherds. This is episode 3, Fruitless Deeds of Darkness, part 2. We're going to go into quite a bit of goodies here now that the holiday break is over and the election is coming to what we would assume would be a close. But just want to welcome us back. My name is Ben. This is Justin with me. And
hey, guys.
We just really hope through this to be able to bring some good news through all the chaos, and then obviously share God's love with you through some crazy things that are going on in the world. Sometimes it's hard to see the good through the negative, but there's a lot of good out there, and there's a promise that we are given that has been given to every single one of us, that with hope, to have hope, and await that promise, and great things are coming. So we just want to share a few of that stuff with you. But it's been a little while.
Yeah.
So how have things been going?
Yeah, it's been a while. Long Christmas break.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's over already.
It went by fast, but it was nice.
Yeah, Jackson came over on Christmas morning, and we went to church at my grandparents' church, and that's always, it brings back a flood of memories.
Right.
Holy cow.
I bet.
Because we would go there for almost every major holiday, like Easter, Christmas, and all that.
Well, now with your other siblings, with your sister having kids, I bet it's like you look at your kids playing with those kids, and you're like,
yeah,
that was us.
I remember those.
Little. That's how it is.
I remember playing on those hard wooden benches. Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy, man. I just see my cousin's little kids playing with Owen, and you're like, holy cow. I remember that. Yeah, I remember doing that. Causing mischief in the front room of my grandma's house. Yeah. I used to do that all the time. And
I know.
And they were like, what are they doing? And I can only assume that's what my parents were thinking back then.
I know, and then we went to, the day after Christmas, we went to Wisconsin. Oh, yeah. Did that for we came back on Monday. Yeah. So it was Saturday to Monday.
But what was it like there? Was it obviously here in Northwest Iowa with face masks and abiding by requirements in bars and restaurants, and we're really laxed, I would say, in regards to the rest of the country. Yeah. What was Wisconsin like? I
would say it's the same.
The same?
Yeah, I'd say it's very similar. It's a pretty conservative area. So mm-hmm. It's right smack dab in the middle of Wisconsin. Right. And it's a primarily Dutch community. Okay. So it's a lot like Sioux County. Like that.
Don't tread on me, and we're just going to live our lives kind of thing. Right?
Yeah, and I feel
like that's Northwest Iowa.
Most people still wore masks, but there were people who didn't wear masks. Right. And
out of a general respect thing. When they're... I guess the way I've looked at it is, I've looked at the science behind them. Yeah. And you could have a scientist from both ends of the spectrum with plenty of evidence. And the way I look at it is it was weird. It was awkward. My wife and I went to Target up in Sioux Falls, and obviously I don't go to Target often, but going to Target and seeing that it required a mask, I didn't have one with me. I forgot mine. I have one for work, but I left it at work. So it was weird because I stood outside the store while my wife and son went in and bought me a mask, and then came out and gave it to me so I could go into the store and go shopping. And what I didn't know is that they had a
little
stand inside, that you can get a cheap blue mask,
disposable.
And I didn't know that, obviously, but it was one of those awkward feelings, well, dang, I can't go in here without a mask. I felt that, and I just wonder if that's a sign of what's coming. Yeah. With other things, because whatever the reason was, I felt that, and I was people were looking at me. I was standing outside without a mask on, and everybody going in the store's got a mask on. So I'm sitting there like the guy, the black sheep of Target at that moment, like can't go in the store because I don't have a mask.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not blaming Target. They provided a mask. It's not, obviously it's a nationwide policy for their stores, and what it is, and that's very similar to everything right now.
Right.
So it's not that, but I felt what it feels like to not be welcomed in because I didn't abide by the mask policy, which again, scientifically could be supported 100% in both ways.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I felt that too. I've gotten, we've gone to places where they're like, I think it was Soho in Sioux Falls, the restaurant. They were like, well, if you have a mask in your car, go get it so that you can wear it at least to your table. Then you can take it off when you get to your table.
Right. Well, we just did that the last couple of days. We went out to eat over the last few days, and it's like, Hoo Hot. Love Hoo Hot. Could just mow down all day at Hoo Hot.
Oh.
But it is odd. It's a buffet style place.
Yeah.
You wear your mask to go in the two front doors and be greeted by the greeter, and then they give you your seat. And once you get to your table, it's a no mask requirement, basically. You don't have to wear a mask to go through the buffet. It doesn't say that. You have to wear gloves, which I 100% understand. You're sharing tongs, you're putting your hands near food. And yes, believe it or not, even though we haven't heard much of that, the virus gets spread by your hands too, not just your face.
Yeah.
And so, obviously they're taking that precaution. And they have the glass, obviously, over the food. So breathing on the food would be difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you go in, you can just go through as many times as you want without having a mask on. It's just basically getting in the door and getting to your table, and that's it. And I feel like that's the same at almost all food places.
Yeah, we went to a Ponderosa in Wisconsin. It's it's kind of like a Golden Corral, buffet style. And it was the deal where you could go in and they just requested that you wear masks, but you had to wear gloves when you went through the buffet line. But the masks were optional. So my cousins and my brothers, they didn't wear their masks.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, we had, we wore masks over Christmas with the family, and at the request of one of my siblings, and rightfully so. Again, every person has had a different experience and has a different feeling towards it. Like my mom had COVID bad, while she's doing chemo and stuff, and it's like, or right before she started chemo, and it's like, ugh, and she had a bad, like she was sick temperatures for 5 days straight. It was rough.
Yeah.
Other people don't have those symptoms, and so you just, some people's experience is, is less significant in the minds of fear than others.
Right.
Now, for me, I guess personally, there's things out there you can and can't control.
Yeah.
This is something I can't control. None of us can control it. It's out there.
Yeah.
And whether you believe it's real or you don't believe it's real, or you believe Bill Gates made it, which that's where I'm at. Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
What can you do? It's out there. It's alive. It's going around.
Yeah, we didn't.
I don't know.
We didn't. We had we kind of just threw the social distancing out the window when we went to Wisconsin. Yeah. In terms of family, my grandpa and grandma and my cousins. We were one of my cousins had one of those New Glarus beers.
Oh yeah.
One of the bottled beers, and we were kind of just passing it around, do you like this? Well, how do you think this tastes good? And nobody liked it but me, obviously. So then I just took it.
Great.
So I just took it and drank it, and then I thought about it. I'm like,
shoot,
whatever.
Yeah, but again, exactly. It's like,
so I'm like, well, let's see what happens.
It's we've done, I guess in my mind, it's we've done that during the flu season. You go to a party and people share a beverage, and you didn't ask everybody there if anybody's got sexually transmitted diseases, because guess what? Those last a lifetime too.
Yeah.
A lot of them. And so it's you didn't ask anybody then.
Yeah.
and gosh, yeah, you look at how many people are infected by some of those diseases. I mean, my students learn that stuff. Like, there's a lot. And there's a lot of people that have been, I want to put this in air quotes, infected by COVID-19, you know, because the word infected has negative connotation, but
right.
people have tested positive for COVID-19.
Yeah.
And I think that number has been taken a little bit out of context for us to have a better understanding as consumers about what the disease really is.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of things have been fabricated and fear-mongered, if you will, even though it's real. And it has killed people. It has caused people to die in different ways. It has caused people to be more susceptible to other things, which is very similar to what viruses do. They break down the immune system in different capacities, generally, or attack different parts of the body.
Yeah.
And then the body becomes weaker. And then something else can come in, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of people have said that that's kind of what the coronavirus does. And if
Yeah.
that's the case, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
People are dying. And they have coronavirus in their blood, but we can't say that it's 100% the virus. And I think the CDC's been pretty open about that. Like,
Yeah.
we have recorded deaths of people that have died from heart attacks that have COVID in their system.
Yeah.
Well, is that did COVID-19 do that, or did this person have heart issues?
Right.
Or did COVID assist the heart issue?
Yeah.
Because then I do not know if we can think it in the way that, like, the virus killed the person.
Well, yeah, and
the virus made the person weaker.
I keep thinking back to my grandma Salazar. She had lung cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and it got she had COVID. Apparently, she found out that she felt a little bit under the weather like at our wedding, but then she found out later that she had COVID, and then I didn't hear about it until like a month and a half later.
Really? 2
months later, and then we were like, "You had COVID?" And she was like, "Yeah, it went. I got it, and then we went, to the hospital and got treated, and then it went away.
Yeah.
And we were.
And you didn't tell anybody, and you have that thought, and it's like, but why? Why would you tell them?
And then, my grandma, she's just like my mom in that way too. My mom is exactly the same as my grandma. She's like, "Oh yeah, I'm having knee surgery today," and along those lines. But yeah, it's like, well, how come somebody going through like cancer, this like radical cancer treatment, and has a really good, effect on it. It's like pretty much in remission now, and she looks amazing,
right?
And she got COVID and just kicked it like it was like nothing almost, you know.
And she doesn't fit the statistical norm of the age group.
No.
That just gets through it with no issues.
Yeah, like upper 60s.
Yeah. I mean, that's not the age group that you would expect to see those types of symptoms and move forward, especially with a weakened immune system.
Because they told her like when COVID came out, they're like, yeah, I mean, she pretty much said, her doctor said, if you get COVID, it's like, that's pretty much the end of it.
That's it for it. Yeah. Like the fear tactic.
So they were really...
Stay inside.
Yeah, and then when she got it...
Yeah.
It was a completely different story. But...
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know. There's just a lot. There's a lot going on. I mean, obviously, that's still around. You got the election. Today's a big day. Obviously, the votes in Georgia are taking place right now.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. And like I've said for a while, I mean, obviously, I've got my feelings towards things, but I think I don't know if it matters. I think I've said that before. I don't know if it matters which way it falls at this point. I don't see a lot of positive in the really near future. I think it doesn't matter how the election plays out in our country. I think there's going to be a lot of upset people. I think there's going to be a lot of anger.
A lot of turbulence.
A lot of bumps, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, and tomorrow's kind of that day. I mean, there's been a lot of like Twitter threats. I kind of showed some of those to you a little while ago, about releasing all of this information that you and I've talked about, and we'll get into some of that as we recap what we've talked about before with some of that like Satanistic kind of lifestyle from some of these higher up people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, some of that stuff was referenced, and it's like, what? Like, wait, we talked about that already. Like you and I talked about it like months ago.
Yeah.
And it just came out in a couple tweets from an attorney, and I'm like, wait a second, what? And yeah, I mean, we got an explosion, or yeah, an explosion of some sort. I mean, here's what's your take on it first? Because I've got some. I think the story's identical to another story that we've had in the news.
On the explosion?
Like, yeah, with the Nashville incident.
My first thoughts are like, oh, this is something that's government created to, to kind of distract the people, or to place like a label on a certain group of people, like the guy who was killed, or who detonated the bomb.
Right.
They're claiming that he's quacking into all these conspiracies and all that stuff,
yeah.
and it's
a hell of a story right now.
It's like my first reaction is not that it's the story that they're telling us.
100%.
100%.
I mean, the story came out in 24 hours or less from the explosion. Like in my head, I go, what happened to investigations? Like, this is a massive explosion.
Yeah.
But we already had the story. We already knew who it was. We already knew that he had been making bombs in his basement for a year. We already know all of the information about his girlfriend who got some houses or some type of money or property. It's like, how did that happen? Like, what? Like, you guys got a lot of information in a real short amount of time. And then, in my head, I'm going, wait a second. Did the media tell us that the girlfriend or the woman who was involved with this guy, whoever that was to him, had let the police know that he was making bombs at his house a year prior to this incident? In my head, I'm going, man, people's houses get broken into for like a gram of marijuana or for very minor criminal charges.
Right.
Like, people get their doors busted in and arrested in cuffs and carried out into a car. And yet this lady told the authorities that, hey, this guy's making bombs in his house. And nobody stopped him.
Yeah.
What? And here's the thing, right? That story is the exact same story as the Las Vegas shooter.
Mm-hmm.
An old white male who has been collecting a weapon, right? Mm-hmm. The first guy was assault weapons with tons of ammunition. His garage was full of them.
Automatic weapons.
Yeah, his garage was full. He had a storage room full. He just all this stuff. And now we've got another guy who's been making bombs forever. Their faces were put in front of us right away. We had a conclusion to the questions right away. And we moved on. No more questions asked.
Yeah.
And I believe that there was an episode on Ellen where a guy who was involved somehow or knew something about the loss. I could be wrong. This could be something else. But was like, yeah, we're not going to talk about that anymore.
Yeah.
Like, we just, like, hey, we're moving on. We're not talking about it anymore. And even in that situation, when you look back then, like, all of these cameras just failed in a very high security placed, venue in Las Vegas. Like, a guy got all these guns and, like, me, just being me, couldn't sneak in to one of those places. I'd get caught, and they'd shoo me out into the street.
Yeah.
How did this guy get all those guns, get everything set up, get the tempered glass fixed so he can shoot through it? I mean, come on. Like, that's a crazy story. And this guy, the same thing. I mean, he's been making bombs in his basement forever. He keeps them in his camper or whatever, and then drives his camper down to Nashville, and then somehow has the audio to play over the loudspeakers of I believe it was coming from the camper, saying, evacuate, leave the area, whatever. Some people had said, like, in reverse, it says, Merry Christmas, are you ready? If you play it in reverse, the sound, which I've seen a couple people do it, I was like, whoa, that's kind of freaky in a weird way, right? But when you look at it, to me, it's like, man, the pictures that we got from the media are really good. Like, we've got a perfect picture of his house with the camper there. We've got a perfect picture of the camper driving down the street into Nashville, like within a very short amount of time. We have this camper sitting down on this street, telling everybody to get out of the way. Don't be around here. Get out of this area. We have cops in the area making sure nobody goes into the area. I don't know this, but if we thought it was a bomb, generally a bomb squad is called in. Generally, if we think it's a car bomb or a bomb of any sort, a bag bomb or anything like that, if we know about it. I don't know if that ever took place. I never looked that up. I'd like to know that.
Right.
Because if a bomb squad wasn't called in, well, then we weren't expecting a bomb. And I think that kind of goes along to what we were talking about earlier with some of those other videos we've seen. But, I mean, when you think about it, it's like how... That's just odd. Like, I don't think a person that was making bombs in their basement would just want to blow up a building and himself for fun to try to spread the message of 5G conspiracy. Like, wouldn't you want to take people with you if you were that insane? Wouldn't you try to kill people with the bombs you've made? Like,
right.
Why? Like, I don't understand the story in that capacity from a human mindset. Like, you don't want anyone to get hurt, but you're making bombs. That's a contradiction. And then you want to share a story or something about, I mean, some of the stories we're talking about 5G conspiracy, and I don't get it. I'm like, there's no way. I'm just sorry. Like, all of that happened way too fast, and we've already moved on.
Yeah.
We're not even talking about it anymore. Back to the election. Quick distraction. What from? And why? Because we think, or potentially think, it could be what?
Well, yeah. I mean, you saw the news of, like, how Trump and Pence had to, like, evacuate and get to the... What did they have to get to the White House, or where did they?
They were on. I think they were on vacation in Florida or something.
Yeah.
Or both of them were on vacation. But here's another thing I heard about that. So when they came back, right? Like, there's Air Force One, Air Force Two. Well, one of the things I had heard is that Pence was not on Air Force Two. He was on a jet accompanied by other, like, fighter jets. And it was like Sam something. And somebody I think it was like on TikTok or something, somebody sent me that. And it was talking about how if you read the Bible verse, Samuel whatever, it talks about all these things that people have been saying that Mike Pence might not be a good guy. I think that's crazy. I don't know that. But a lot of people have been talking about that, like Mike Pence should be in jail. Mike Pence is going to jail for treason. Mike Pence is a traitor. I mean, all these things. And I'm like, I just heard him talk last night, and he sounds like he's preaching a decent message. But I have been fooled before.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But it is odd, and I don't know. I mean, this is just what somebody had said, that he was not on Air Force Two. He was on another jet named Sam something, which if you look at the Bible verse of that, you go, whoa, that's a pretty significant verse. And I can't remember what it was. But I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, I don't remember what it is either, and we kind of need that.
I know. It's Samuel, like, 4 something. But either way, I'm like, okay, if that's true, and how people get that information, I have no idea. I don't have access to that information. It'd be awesome if I did, but Google doesn't provide that, probably for good reason. Because the truth hurts, I think.
Oh, man.
And I think the truth is going to hurt a lot of us. One of the things we were talking about earlier, and we can dive into it a little bit, because it's going to lead into us reiterating what we talked about before the holidays and Christmas break, and then we'll be able to close with a really good point, hopefully, for everybody out there. But remember, just as an intermission here, to subscribe, share, and ask us some questions, comment, and talk to us, because there's a lot of things going on in the world right now, and I think it's just a good thing to open the door for conversation.
Yep.
What do you know? What do you think you know? What have you heard? Can we connect the dots to anything? Because I think we're connecting some dots here, and I just don't know if the future looks very bright. The near future looks like, yay! I don't know if I can say that. I don't know. I don't feel that, but I don't know. We'll see. It'd be great if it was.
Right.
But yeah, some of those tweets. So a lot of people. So this Linwood guy, no connection to him, have no idea who he is. I've had to look him up. Google says he's an attorney for Donald Trump. I've heard the name connected to the Trump administration a few times with the Sidney Powell lady, and obviously the media has portrayed both of these people as quack jobs. Mm-hmm. Conspiracy conservatives who are far-right extremists who will do anything to push their agenda. That's the media's portrayal of these people.
Sort of like what happened to Glenn Beck.
Right. Exactly. And let's talk about Glenn Beck, because I just heard a message from him tonight, or last night, one of the two, and he was talking about people going to D.C. for tomorrow. And obviously, we all know what side of the fence Glenn Beck is on in regards to his ideologies. He's very new. I would say he tries to open the door on every side.
Yeah.
He tries to talk about it from a clear lens, at least from my perspective, but he would fall more right than left.
Yeah.
Probably a lot more right than left, I would say. I believe because of some of the things he has said, some of the people they've talked about, like George Soros and people like that, he was taken off of mainstream media.
Yeah.
That's why I think he has the Blaze Network now. I think it's private, where he can say whatever he wants.
Yeah.
For the most part, and I think either way, he was talking to people like this. Like there's a member in our family who I just saw Facebook posts. He's on a bus headed to Washington D.C. and I'm like, all right then. I mean, he's a veteran. He was in the military. He's probably seen a lot more things than we have in regards to that aspect of life. And what things are like overseas. But yeah, he's on a bus headed to Washington, D.C. To support President Donald Trump for tomorrow. And I think that's,
wow.
There's a lot of people making that trip.
Yeah.
There's a lot of decisions being made tomorrow. And Glenn Beck had basically told people, like, remember that you're going there to support your president. Other groups like Antifa will be there to start issues. And you will be the poster child for anything wrong that takes place. So be careful what you're doing. Because whether Antifa starts a riot or not, it's going to be the Trump flag bearers who are in the media as causing issues. They've already decided to make that narrative. If you go read your news now, the narrative already is there's a bunch of Trump supporters coming to Washington to cause trouble.
Sure.
And I think that there's maybe a little validity in that.
Yeah.
Very few. I do believe that there's probably a very, very, very minor percentage of people who are going there
extremists and
to cause problems.
Yep.
But I would say the majority going to D.C. are going because they do feel that President Trump is the right leader for the
right.
country.
They're going out of loyalty.
Exactly.
And conviction.
And I think tomorrow we'll see how many people that really looks like. I think a lot of us are going to be in awe. Now, the scary thing about this is one of the predictions, if you will, from The Simpsons does predict President Trump at the White House, I believe. Or maybe it's Homer standing on top of the White House. I don't remember what I saw. But everything around the White House is burning and destroyed and in ruins. Now, The Simpsons has been right on a lot of crazy things. How that's possible, is it luck? Maybe. The writer seems to say that, we write 1,000 stories and 10 of them become true. I mean, that's just
right.
luck. And I go, well, I disagree with you. Because some of them are, like, spot on.
Right,
like,
dude.
Same person drops the sign while Trump goes down the escalator.
Yeah, that famous scene where Trump is going down the escalator.
It's just very odd.
After he won the presidency.
Yeah. It's very odd.
It's I wonder if it's not like intervention, like from
something else,
from the other side. Like if it's not their.
I never thought about it that way.
If it's not their, because they swear that they're not,
they're not from the future,
right? That they're not.
They don't see the future.
There's no agenda behind it,
right?
Which I don't know.
There's always an agenda behind what's on TV.
But one theory that I thought was like, well, God works in ways where he the Bible is infallible, and he wrote the Bible through people. Right. So who's to say that Satan can't do the same thing? God says that Satan works through people, like we were just talking
100%,
about.
100%.
So it's like, what if Satan just planted that egg in their mind, and then they're like, oh yeah, this is what we're doing, because Satan knows the pull that the Simpsons had it on the culture,
and he knows God's
at
plan
that time,
right?
Yeah,
I mean he's like, he was God's man, like God's right hand dude. Like,
right,
you're my guy,
yeah,
or one of the guys,
Mm-hmm.
And he bailed on him, and God's like, get out, man.
Mm-hmm.
You're not welcome here. And that was a couple things that I had heard. Dude, I was listening to, was it Lindsey Graham? Right?
Linwood or
Billy Graham.
Billy Graham?
Who's Lindsey Graham?
He's
Lindsey Graham's a senator.
Senator.
Yeah. Notice, that name, it's everywhere too. But I was listening to Billy Graham the other day, and I was in a down mode. Like, you and I have talked about a few things. I've been just looking out in the world at what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And I was like, you know what? There's somebody that's got the answer, right? So I'm just going to go look at some spiritual motivation. That's all I did. And
sure.
I looked on YouTube, because where else do you go to get anything that's motivational? But yeah, so I get on YouTube, and I fell upon this Billy Graham, like, motivational speech, something. I think it's called, like, the speech that broke the internet or something, right? And it's me and my son, we're at home. I think my wife's at work, and I'm standing in the kitchen just listening to it with one earphone in, and he's getting into the message. He's talking about things, and I'm listening, and I'm feeling good about it. And he starts to say some things, and, like, you know when you really tune in to something? Like, you're listening.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like everything else goes quiet, and you're 100% in. Like, that happened for a split second. And the two things he said is, and he's almost saying it in anger. And I love it. He's like, God loves you. And I broke down.
Yeah, man. That gave me chills.
In that moment.
It gave me chills just
because he's talking about how much we beat ourselves up and how much the devil laughs at that. Because he loves our sadness and our depression and our hate for the world and each other. He loves that. He thrives on that. He created that for us. He is the prince of the earth, if you will. You know, I mean, he is 100% present. And in that moment, I needed that. And I was like, oh. And I couldn't stop. Like, I was just crying.
Yeah.
And I kept crying. And I was like, all right, my son can't see me crying just randomly in the kitchen. So I'm trying to wipe tears. And he comes out, we're talking a little bit. And then he keeps going. I mean, there's just the message, the powerful message just keeps going. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like, I needed that, right? But then it was weird because I obviously hop into some conspiracy videos later on in the day. And he appeared in one.
Billy Graham.
Yeah. But not as the person of the context. He was just in the picture with the person in the context, shaking hands of another person that supposedly have things to do with the Masonic brotherhood, if you will, or whatever they want to call it. And I just thought it was odd. Now, they didn't say anything about him. And I was like, there's no way. Not a chance. Like, in my mind, right? I'm like, no way. Because what I just heard would not make me feel that way in my heart if that was true. I don't think. Maybe. I don't know. But I don't believe that. I don't think so. But...
Well, I had the same question on the way here to myself. I saw a little clip of Justin Bieber singing a Hillsong video.
Oh, yeah. See, I've had some questions
too. Like, really, and I'm like, well, if this beautiful singing and this amazing message can make me feel this way, but it's coming from this person who you don't really know if his intentions are all there or this or that, then what is that?
Yeah.
And I think that's the case with a lot of people like that, like Billy Graham, who are in that position of who can speak a very powerful message, and know how to speak in front of big crowds. I automatically think of like Pat Robertson and that one guy, that one televangelic priest or pastor who's like good buddies with Tyler Perry, and who was gifted Tyler Perry's jet basically, and who's been caught on interviews being like saying like don't you say I'm a liar or like,
oh, you mean the guy that like I don't want to be disrespectful to him, but he looks evil?
Yeah,
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think by me saying that, I think everybody will know who I'm talking about.
But
he just kind of seems a little evil.
He's like
what's his name?
Oh, I don't know. I can't remember, but either way,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Either way, they're all like TBN, and their logo, like that video that you had sent me on that, and it's like it's you know, it's kind of like the devil is trying to, you know, get everybody in a certain mindset and then attack them, you know, when they're most vulnerable and open spiritually.
Yep.
Right? And we
and
always
that's
have to be on the lookout
as much money,
for that.
Like that, you know, you need to give more money, and they're like, I don't have any more. And he's like, you can afford more, and then they give more, and it's like, wait, now who are you giving it to? Yeah. Who are you giving the money to? And that's a very slippery slope in the church world. There's a lyric in a Casting Crowns song, and I connect with it. And again, I mean, when we start looking into some of these, even some of the famous Christian bands, like you have to be careful. You just have to be. I don't know. I mean, the message sounds so good, but you know, the lyric says like, what if the church on Sunday was still the same on Monday too? And when I heard that, I thought, man, what a powerful lyric that's just kind of hidden within the whole song, the whole composition. And I'm like, yeah. like, I haven't been to church in a little while. I mean, to be honest with you, and obviously being a youth pastor in the past, or subbing in as a youth pastor, and just really being into ministry and trying to let the youth see how great God can be, right? You know, for them. And I'm wishing I had a better connection with him when I was younger. But, you know, when we think about just how God works and all of that, I mean, it's nuts, man. I mean, I don't even know. I can't even. God just works in the craziest ways that sometimes are unexplainable, and I want to be able to share that with people. And I think not going to church in the last little while isn't necessarily a good thing. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say it's a good thing. But it's made me realize that God can be a part of my life every single second of the day. I don't have to wait for Sunday, and Sunday doesn't have to wait for me. God's available 24/7.
100%.
And, I mean, obviously I've known this, but it's been evident after we moved. And, you know, there were a few hardships in our church, and there was just a lot of things going on, and drama and stuff. And, and obviously God works in mysterious ways. So, I mean, I think this may be one of those mysterious ways for me personally to realize that God needs to be present all the time. Mm-hmm. All the time. And I've known that for a long time, but now it makes complete sense to me. I mean, geez, we've got a Bible open here. We talk all the time about it. We share ideas about how God's working. It's one of those things where it's like, it doesn't have to just be, God can't be boxed up on Sunday.
Right.
It's not possible. And when you try to do that, you limit your ability to grow with him. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a pretty important message. I'm not saying bail on church. I'm saying keep the door open all the time. Don't shut the door when the church door closes.
Yeah. And I hear the message and you know, and the thing with church is like the fellowship and the message and you know, and the connection and the energy that you feel when you go to a place where people are all worshiping together, you know.
Right.
There's that you don't get when you don't go to church, and I've been feeling that a lot too. So because I'm in the same boat as you.
Just been at home.
And
people across the world
and
are
we
that
both
way.
Moved, you know, to different parts of the Northwest Iowa while we were, you know, during this quarantine, and in that transition, churches being closed and not going, you know.
Yeah, but even think about that now. I mean, the attacks against churches still people being fined, churches being fined $15,000 here and there for having worship still. I think that's bonkers.
Yeah.
If I can go to Walmart with a mask, I can go to church with a mask. I don't care who you are. Mm-hmm. If I can go buy food, I can go praise the Lord.
Yeah, and I'll say I went to church at my grandma's church on Christmas Day.
Right.
And not a single person wearing a mask.
Really?
Not one person. I walked in the door with my mask in my pocket, like
if I need one, I got it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I walked in, and it's like, oh, okay. So we're just everybody's just not going to wear a mask. That's cool. Right. So then nobody wore a mask.
It's just so different everywhere you go. I mean, I've got a buddy that lives in England, and let's see if I can say it right, Yorkshire. I hope he listens so he can yell at me if I said it wrong. But yeah, you know, we talked to him about how things are going over there, and they're obviously on just a severe lockdown. Yeah. And it sounds like it's getting more extreme. Yeah. You've got New Zealand on a lockdown with like quarantine camps. You've got, I heard that China's working with Canada. I think we talked about that last time. And now I've heard that there's places like that potentially going up in like New York and California. Mm. And I'm like, what? Is that true? I don't know. I haven't looked into it, but I heard that, and I'm like, that would not be a good thing. That's not a good thing.
Right.
Quarantine camps. There used to be a different word for those things that we read about in history books. The people that don't belong in society. Right? It's just a whole different mindset now. Now we have something to blame you for. We have something that has been created. Now we can use against you. And if you don't do what we say based on what we've created, we'll do what we want with you. And I believe that's literally on the chessboard, the position we're in. Now, let's talk about chess, because my brother and I used to play chess all the time. And this is how battles and wars are different. We play. We battle. He wins. I win. He wins. I win. Right? Those are battles. Just go back and forth. The war is when it's tight. The battle is close. And you get the tension over the board. And one person snaps and says, F this game, wipes the pieces off the table, and then throws a haymaker. That's the war. And I think that's where we're at. I think the battle's been going back and forth. I think the pieces have been being played. I think people have won and lost and won and lost. I think we're over that. I mean, I think the American people at this time, with what's going on in regards to not only coronavirus, but election and everything else, I mean, I think people are ready to swipe the pieces off the game board and throw a haymaker. Yeah. And just, we're done with it. Because there's so much contradiction in what you can do and can't do, and what our leaders say and what our leaders do, and what? There's so much contradiction. People I think, are just fed up.
I mean, people are fed up on both sides. Yeah. People on the other side too. They're like, whatever we got to do to get this guy out of power, and this is 100%. We got to protect our asses here, right? And they're just gonna do what they got to do,
and that worries me, because another Simpsons prediction is that Donald Trump's laying in a casket, right? That worries me, because I don't care if you hate the guy. I don't. But he's the president of our country. Yeah. If you make any action like that acceptable, that becomes an acceptable action from here on out. It's no different than the election. If we're going to allow dead people to vote, we're going to allow dead people to vote forever from here on out. We've accepted it once, we'll continue to accept it. It's not a good system. It needs to be fixed. And now I truly believe is now the time to fix it. Find the issues, fix the issues, move forward from the issues so that those issues don't take place. And I think that's... Yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully one way we can predict that, we can interpret that prediction by The Simpsons is that dead people's votes were used to get Donald Trump out of the office, and then a woman took over. Yes. Being Kamala Harris.
Right. Because Lisa is the president next.
And maybe it's, we can interpret it in a more positive light, I guess.
Yeah.
But...
And I hope, I really hope that that's the...
I mean...
I hope nothing...
I mean, because it is speculation as long, Yeah. We don't know if it's true, if that's actually a prediction, so,
No, we don't know. We don't know. A prediction at all, no. It is very odd, however, that we never know what is a prediction until hindsight takes place. Right. And that's the weird part, is that there's some really odd things that do take place in a lot of TV shows, not just The Simpsons, but I mean, we're talking a lot of different TV shows in regards to futuristic ideas, different types of technology, different types of weaponry, and the weird thing is we start to slowly see those things actually become a reality. Right. And I think that's one of the things that we're talking about with the satellite laser energy technology, is that's a real thing. Yeah. It exists. We can't buy it, so we don't care about it. But it's out there. And maybe that's what took place in Nashville. Right. I don't know.
Maybe that's what took place in 9/11.
Who knows?
That's a
I did see a video about 9/11, man. I saw one where this guy was watching the plane fly in, and he and who knows? I mean, you can Photoshop.
Yeah.
I mean, or you could photo whatever. But like, he's like, look, like they didn't crop it correctly.
Yeah, I saw that video.
And or something like that. And the wing, instead of going in front of the building, goes behind the building.
Yeah.
Even though the plane's closer than the building.
Right.
Kind of thing. Just the depth issue if you were trying to Photoshop something.
And also,
I'm like, that's a pretty bold mistake.
I know we could get into a big, deep rabbit hole here.
Yeah. But we don't want to go down that one.
No, we don't have to today.
No. We got everything else.
Yeah.
We talk about, go back to Nashville, go back to all of that, talk about, potential ideas and whose ideas those might be and why these things might be taking place. I mean, it's weird that everything kind of falls back into the same pot of people in regards to the dots that have been connected from you and I. So, before we're talking about how, there's all this personification and subliminal messaging and symbolism and entertainment and music and all of those kinds of things. I mean, we mentioned, lots of different people. Madonna, Lady Gaga, the Biebs. I don't want to repeat a list of a billion.
Okay, yep.
There's a lot. But yeah, I mean, just all of that stuff with the hand gestures that we'll talk a little bit more in depth today. Like, there's a lot out there that if you see it once, you see it all the time.
Yeah.
One thing I notice is Jimmy Fallon's hands, right? When he does the monologue, his hands are always just below the screen, which might be just a normal camera angle. I don't do that type of work, but I've seen his hands a few times. And again, it's that thumb over the thumb with the finger over the finger type of a hand pose, right? Which has been tied to a lot of Masonic symbolism in regards to being a part of the Brotherhood or whatever that's called. And I don't know, I mean, I don't really hold my hands a certain way, I guess, but usually it's all of my fingers interlocked. And maybe that's what he's doing, but it just seems different. I don't know. Something to look into.
I know, and I question that too when they put those out there that, these hand gestures, like the one you're just talking about, the one with the fingers pointing down.
Like this. Is this a bad one?
Right, and the fingers pointing down interlocked like that, or pointed down at, like in a triangle, like this.
Now this
with
is
all of your fingers, with all your fingers and your thumb connected, and where it looks like a triangle.
Yeah.
In your thumb and your finger.
Yeah, like this.
Right. Or just like this.
Like some of it is like some of them that I've seen, I've questioned. Like, that could just be like, I talk with my hands all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Some of them are highly intentional.
Right.
I mean, like that, like what you're saying. Like, if you're just sitting there relaxed with your hands on your arm or on your legs, your arms and hands resting off your legs, your hands will just dangle. That's just anatomically what takes place. Your hands are just, unless you tense up muscles or change your hands will just dangle.
Right.
So in order to put your hands in a certain location, that's purposeful.
Right. Yeah.
And so if I'm going to have my hands hang, usually I'd interlock all my fingers.
Yeah.
But to make a downward shaped pyramid and hold that while talking is intentional. Your hands don't just generally create a diamond shape without having to, contract your thumb muscles.
Yeah.
Like that's intentional.
That's intentional. Yeah.
And we've seen that multiple times.
Yeah.
We see the obviously the pyramid sign up the right way out in front of the face or
face
just
up.
out in front. What else is? I mean, the covering of the eye.
Yeah.
Right. The
peace
one
symbol.
eye. The peace symbol. The whisper. The quiet thing, like the secret society symbol.
The horns with palm facing
the
out.
Baphomet, yeah, with the horns. I mean, the crazy thing about that is a lot of those things, a lot of people just sum up as a gesture, like a celebrity gesture. Well, the question is to me, like, why does that originate from celebrity culture? What is it that they do what is their reason for doing it that sheds off onto the consumer?
Well, why does any gang have hand gestures?
Right. They're communicating.
Yeah.
It's symbolic of what things they've done.
And they're saying, "Yep, I'm down. Like this is
I'm with you.
Yep,
I've got your back," or whatever in the moment the message is.
Yeah.
Like the job is done, or
yeah,
the job is on its way, or whatever.
It's been hard to like watch.
I know.
The NBA.
Everything.
It's been hard to watch, the NFL. There's like the NBA, man. It's just so they're just so like blatantly tied to their ideals and like and what we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and we don't know, about the allegations that people make against like the NBA players and
right.
the ritualistic things that they do to to get to where they feel that they need to be.
Right. Like we don't have any facts of that.
Right.
And I want to make sure people know that. Like we've never seen it.
But then it makes you wonder, like, well, why was James Harden late to training camp? Well, he was in Vegas and he was in Atlanta. And just the way that his press conference went just made it seem very odd that it just seemed like there was like something else, that he was doing.
Right, just avoiding it kind of.
That he doesn't want to tell us.
Right.
But that is another rabbit hole that
I know.
It's
but they all connect again, like we said. Every rabbit hole that you enter, no matter if it's on the top of the hill or the bottom of the hill, they all connected underground.
Yeah, dude.
And I think that's what you and I've ended up finding is you start looking at the symbolism, and obviously anybody who's listening or wants to look at it, I mean, just some of those things that we said, like the quote unquote Illuminati symbol is the Illuminati symbol, like. It is.
Yeah.
And yes, it's been passed down through consumerism from our celeb culture to our modern day kid culture with sports and, doing the OK sign over the I when you make a 3. Like, that originated from celeb culture. So the question is why do they do it, and why did it become a trend? And why do we not think it's that big of an issue now, when there's a lot of historical connection to a lot of devilish satanic things that connect to those symbols?
Right.
It's very odd that we've just accepted it, if you will, when before it all used to be secret.
Well, now it's a matter of the media. I feel like the message that they're trying to get out is if you use these symbols and you preach our message, then this will give you success and this will give you money and fame.
Well, in all honesty, it makes you cooler, if you will.
Right.
Like, if you're the kid that drains a 3 and does the cool 3s over the eyes like LeBron, you're cool. I mean, we connect that directly to celeb culture, painting your face like Lady Gaga and dressing up into some crazy things. Became a fad for a little while, like just whatever that was, people like just tap into what celeb culture do, and that becomes what we do as consumers. And that's a scary thing when you start to figure out the things that we know or that we think we might know about some of these people who literally create societies of followers.
Yeah.
Huge societies of followers.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we are doing what we're doing, reaching out to people who listen to this, is just trying to spread that message of, again, like, be careful where you're putting your energy.
Yeah.
Because the thing that's accepting the energy might not be a good thing.
Right.
It might not be a good thing at all. And again, when you start connecting all those dots, I think we see that. I mean, one of the things we talked about was, again, back in Ephesians, verse 12, it says, it is shameful to even mention what the disobedient do in the darkness. And some of the things that we didn't talk too much about And we're going to dive into a few details down this symbolism rabbit hole. But there's four main things that I've seen that just seem to be like a tiered system of success in these secret societies, if you will, wherever they're at, or I don't know if they're race based, if they're a whole collective group, but you get treated differently based on if you're male, female, black, white. I don't know, but there's some trends that I've seen, and one of them is, and this is majority, like black male actors have played or been made to dress up as a female. Dave Chappelle has a great interview with Oprah Winfrey regarding the request to have him dress up as a female in one of the movies he was in, I think with Martin Lawrence maybe. And he's like, no, like I'm funnier than me dressing up as a girl.
Right.
But they pressed him. And he speaks about that. Like they
I've
really wanted him to dress up as a girl.
Yeah.
And when you look back through a lot of, I mean, Martin Lawrence, Big Mama's House. I mean, you look at a lot of black
Eddie Murphy,
males.
Jamie Foxx.
I mean, they all have. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, whether it was in a movie or whether it was on in public or on Saturday Night Live or somewhere in the public eye, they've had to dress up as a female for some reason. Kevin Hart. I mean, they all have. And I just wonder, why is that? Like, that's weird. That's one. Another one is blonde hair. And dyeing your hair blonde after the sacrifice or before the sacrifice or something like that is what I had heard. I think that's crazy, but there's a lot of connection to blonde hair. Or dyeing your hair blonde.
Right. Yeah, so the story there is like the black celebrities dyeing their hair blonde after somebody has died in their, like, close to them in their inner circle.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, like where a family member or a friend, somebody close to them has died, which we assume or would assume to be the sacrifice for their fame.
Right.
And that's one of the things that that we have found in this tiered system is that there is a blood / a human sacrifice that's required in order to get to the top tiers.
Right.
And it's just really odd when you start looking into things. Like you start looking into famous people.
And when you know history.
Right.
Too.
When you know music and you know the celeb culture and you, like for us, like our generation grew up with that. Movies, TV shows, video games. That was us. Now kids have TikTok and like regular people are famous now. Like we only paid attention to the famous people. That's all we had. We had no public figure sitting in their basement making YouTube videos that we could watch. Not at that time. Those came later.
Yeah. But
growing up, all we did was watch movies.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to Hollywood. I mean, we were bred to pay attention to Disney and Cartoon Network and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that failed the plan for the people that have created the plan to never let us know what's going on. I think it actually opened the door because we can connect the dots. And when you connect those dots, you go ahead and you say, yeah, man, geez. You start looking back at how many celebrities were at the top tier of their content who has lost a family member right before they hit it big. It blows my mind how many celebs.
Those videos that you sent me, they're just, it's nuts. I thought it was going to be like a short video, and it turned out being like pointing out all these 15-minute video of pointing out all these celebrities.
Just tons of them. And then you're like, okay, I mean, and for me sometimes I'm like, I got to look that up.
Yeah.
Some of these people out there that are making these conspiracy videos are literally just trying to find some likes, and they just mash all of their information together, and it doesn't make sense. Like I've heard some people like not like call a music artist a different music artist, and I'm like, okay, I'm out. You don't even know who we're talking about, right? And there are a lot of people out there, but there are some that really break down some serious matters, and when you look at them, you're like, holy cow. Like, yeah, and I don't want to name any celebs. I don't want to get in any trouble.
Right.
But a lot at the top tiers, look them up. Just look up your favorite celeb in the boxing world, in Hollywood, in the music industry, and look them up. See if they've lost a family member that's a son, a daughter, a mom,
a
nephew. And look at the stories about how they pass. I found that to be odd too. A lot of them are similar. Not necessarily the same, but similar.
Yeah.
The celebrity or whoever it is out of town every time the family member dies. They're never present. They have never once was a celebrity present in any of these situations that I've read about.
Right.
They were always out of town and get the phone call and then return. And again, a lot of them had a follow-up after that with a lot of money. A short-term follow-up with either the next big contract, the next big album, the next big movie, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the media portrays it as a sob story. You go on Entertainment Tonight and listen to whatever they have to say, and it's the saddest story, and it pulls on your heartstrings, and you really start to love this character because they've been through so much. But what if you knew that was the plan? And that they did what they did to get to where they are? What if we found out that to be true? That would cause a lot of chaos. And I think the term "the truth hurts" is going to become very factual. Honestly, for a lot of people.
Yeah, and you just wonder where it's going to go after that.
And how far. How far have we gone down the rabbit holes?
Yeah.
How far do they actually go?
Ugh.
Is there some we haven't even seen? Because I can only imagine that there's some out there that we haven't even heard of yet. That are also going to be playing a factor here in our lives.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and then, obviously you could get out of the Hollywood spectrum and still connect the dots in politics and in some of the leaders of the world, not even in our own political system, but around the world, that connect in regards to these secret societies or Masonic secret symbolism things that we see out there in the world and on the TV all the time. And you really do start to wonder just how powerful they are. They really do control everything.
Right.
And I think we're starting to figure that out because there is a force. I don't want to say it's Donald Trump.
Right.
I don't want to say it's Donald Trump. I want to say that there is a force that is picking a battle that nobody knows about. This isn't a war. This isn't a nuclear war we're talking about. That could be a byproduct or that could be a product of what happens. I doubt it. It could be. I don't know. But there's a force bringing out the evil in the world right now. And if you read your Bibles, and again, hop into Revelations, you can read about that force. And you can read about what it looks like. And you can see what the plan is. That real plan. Not the agenda. Not the humanistic agenda. Not the global warming agenda. Or the population control agenda. God's agenda. God's plan. He tells it to you. He tells you what's going to happen. I mean, it's kind of nice and refreshing to at least have a good idea of what's coming. Mm-hmm. It's always nice. That's why as a coach, we scout our opponent.
Right.
It's nice to know what you have to go up against before you go up against it.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of people out there in the world that don't know what we're up against. I don't think they know who the devil is. I don't think they know how powerful he is.
Bro, a majority of the people. Yeah. An overwhelming majority of the people.
I know. I mean, when we look at a lot of the people, right? We talked about the politicians, and the things that have been done in secret. We think about the like Clintons and the Benghazi issue. Like, that's a sketchy thing that never had any resolution. You've got the Obamas connected to the $65,000 of hot dogs and pizza delivered to the White House for a party. And then realizing that hot dogs and pizza relate to the pedophile scandal that the FBI uncovered, but that went hush-hush. And who in their right mind spends $65,000 on hot dogs and pizza? That's a lot. I worked at a pizza place. I mean, that's a ton of food.
You can't even imagine. You literally can't even imagine how much food that would be.
That amount of money. Like, I remember when Donald Trump bought all the, like, fast food for the football team, and everybody was like, oh, Donald Trump, I mean, he's a billionaire and he's buying fast food for these guys. You know, what ridiculous, it's a big story, whatever.
Yeah.
There's no way that came anywhere near $65,000.
I remember they were talking
Not even
about
close.
They were talking about how much he paid, and it was something like around $1,000.
It's like chump change.
Yeah.
But they spent $65,000 on hot dogs and pizza. Hot dogs aren't even real meat.
I remember them saying, "Well, he's a cheap ass for not giving him like a gourmet White House meal."
And I'm
that's what they were knocking him on.
$65 in pizzas and hot dogs, and yet the FBI tells us what those two words mean. If you were to look into the code words that were found in all the emails, and you go, "Whoa, wait a minute here," and that was public knowledge. That was in like Washington Post. Mm-hmm. Obama has 65,000, but then again, how deep does the rabbit hole go, and how many people are connected? Because if the Obamas are doing it, and the leaders of the Washington Post are in on it and know about it, and the New York Times is in on it, and all these people that lead all of these businesses, I mean, it could all be a joke to them.
Yeah.
Just like the symbolism. I mean, showing it all the time because we are so naive to not understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And we just never see it, and then we act like we don't care. Because it doesn't affect us now. The problem is, I think we're going to find out it's going to affect all of us very soon. Very soon. In some capacity. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I mean, we talked about, Lynn Wood and his quote-unquote crazy tweets about Isaac Cappy and the information he released about the pedophile ring and how he has that information. And his tweets say something about, like, having the encryption codes, and many people have the encryption codes. So if he dies, the information will all be released at that time, like guaranteed. And whether that's a fake threat or a real threat or who knows, I mean that's connecting a lot of dots for us.
Yeah.
In now time.
Right.
With a lot of these crazy stories. I mean, you go back and you look at the Bidens and whatever happened. Where's that? What's going on with that? Didn't Hunter Biden actually like come out and say that he had some issues with the Ukraine or was in a part of a scandal, and what's the deal here?
I remember hearing that he went to trial, and then that was it.
And we're done. Now we're looking at the election again. A bombing in Nashville.
There was nothing else.
It's crazy to me. And then you got somewhere like the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, like some list of names was released, like 2 million names that were on that list, and we're talking like not 2 million Chinese names. It's not what we're saying. We're saying 2 million names across the world of very powerful people in every government. People in Hollywood, people that are bankers and lawyers, and people that are high up in their places are part of this take over the world group. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you will. I mean, that's really what it's coming down to. There is this the Great Reset plan. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people still continue to believe that that's a conspiracy theory. That the Great Reset is a conspiracy theory. If you just go out and you listen to other country leaders, you even listen to Joe Biden, the Great Reset is a factual plan to put the entire world on not only the same banking system, but the same systems in regards to all aspects of life. Healthcare, money, work, technology, transportation. It's a great reset of everything. Governance. Who's in control of what? It's not a great reset for Iowa or a great reset for Ben. It's a great reset for everybody, whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Many world leaders are talking about it right now. Some for, some against. Boris, I think it's Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
In the UK, I mean, he's all for it. All for it.
Yeah.
But there was a guy, I think, oh geez, I can't even remember. I think it was a South American country. But he was speaking and he's like, no. We don't want anything, we don't support that. We don't want anything to do with that. And it's odd. Because there's nobody like us are talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the election and a bomb right now. What is this great reset? And what is that plan? Because it's a worldwide plan. It's a Davos meeting plan or a Bilderberg meeting plan. Like the great leaders of around the world met at some point and decided in time the world would need a great reset. And that plan has been in place for a long time. And that is where we're at. Because now you have world leaders talking about it.
Yeah.
And what that means. And that's a very weird, sketchy place to be right now.
Yeah.
And we got people getting, I mean, all I know is like, I don't want Iowa to end up looking like New Zealand right now with quarantine camps and people getting taken out of their homes and separated from their families. I mean, did we not just have an entire national crisis of talking about separating children from their families at the border?
Yeah.
Now, these were children that are being smuggled and trafficked, the majority of them,
Mm-hmm.
that were separating from their handlers at the border. We're now talking about people walking into your house because you didn't get a vaccination or that you may be sick and you're going to be put in a facility until they deem that you're safe to go back out into society. It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
It's a whole different ballgame. And that seems to be a trend right now in the rest of the world. I guess it just hasn't happened here yet.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, you'd like to think that our liberty and, you know, our Constitution will protect us from that, but you never know when the right person gets into power and, controls everything.
I think that might be at stake. And again, here's the thing, too. I'm a firm believer that it's not Joe Biden.
Right.
I'm a firm believer that it's a plan. It's not a person. It's a plan. And the plan is taking shape. The plan is being thwarted. And that's why we see what's happening. Because I know even in my own life, I create a plan. I could even write it down. I mean, I'm a teacher, I'm a coach. I make plans every day. And as soon as that plan doesn't go the way I thought it was going to go, I either accept it or I try to fix it,
mm-hmm.
and I freak out. And in the end, we always come to a resolution.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, everybody might have been screwed in class that day because of my mistake. If I didn't fix it at that time.
Right.
Some kids won't pay attention to the correction either. So they've been lost since then, if that makes sense. I know that's a little confusing. But when I look at what's happening now, I mean, there's a plan. It's not a person, it's a plan. That's why you don't see the person.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see the person leading the charge. You see a bunch of different people leading the charge because it's a plan. It's not a person. And the plan was thwarted, just like my plans. I freak out, or I hope to get through it and hope it ends up well.
Right.
But either way, it usually doesn't because we didn't fix the issue.
Right. Their plan was thwarted when Donald Trump was elected into office.
100%.
And
100%.
And now and what's their? So then they try to fix it, right? They try to fix it by all this the Russia scandal with Trump,
which was completely BS.
Yeah, completely. And then they try to fix it with other things. They try to get Trump to get him impeached,
right?
And now
I mean now they said something about him with talking to the Georgia secretary of needing I want 11,000 votes.
Yep.
I mean, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I would want that many votes too, because that's one more vote than what you had before that lets you win.
Right.
I would want that too. I don't think he was like, you better get me this vote or your ass is done. Like, I'm going to kill you. I don't think there was any threat.
No.
It didn't appear so. It was just like...
Well, and
I don't know. I just don't think it was what the media is playing it out to be.
I don't think so either.
I don't think it was that type of a, like, demanding comment.
No.
After I heard it. I don't know. I could be wrong. But I'm like, if I said it...
But then their last chance is just to completely steal the election, you know, and just to completely take control of the narrative.
Use all your minions. Right?
Yeah.
You've got, like we said, there was 2 million people on this list around the world that are working for the Chinese Communist Party. I don't know the people on that list. You don't know the people on that list. But there's 2 million of them. That's a lot of people, I feel like. Not necessarily in regards to world population, but you can hide 2 million people wherever you want throughout the world. Mm-hmm. If you hide them in government, you hide them in, state government, federal government, world government, you hide them in those places, you can control a lot of things. And when you need something, you can get it. And I think that's what we see take place right now. I think we saw the need for more votes, so we made more votes. We saw the need for certain states to be a certain way, so we set those certain states to end up a certain way. Mm-hmm. That's how I see it. I mean, geez, when you look at even just the map of what states were won and what states were lost, It's like every state but the ones that hold the most value were red.
Yeah.
And only the states that mattered were blue but were red on November 3rd. On November 4th, they turned blue.
Yeah.
They were red on November 3rd, except for maybe like California. But I read an article today that said something like the 55 electoral votes of California are going to be decertified for Biden or removed or something. I don't know. I had heard that. I don't know. It's just I read it across the screen. I did not look into it.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's crazy. But I did read that, and I'm like, whoa. That's a big deal. If that was true, that's 55 electoral votes. That puts Joe Biden under Trump. Mm-hmm. But neither at 270. And the question becomes is, what happens when neither of them reach 270?
I don't know.
Because in the end, that's what's going to happen. If, in my mind, if the Republican Party gets what they want out of this, that's what's going to happen. Because you're not going to see like Georgia, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and all these other states like turn blue to red. They're just not going to be counted. Most likely. Because you'd have to redo the entire election for those states if you deem it that it's not certifiable. You wouldn't be able to just say that they're Donald Trump's.
Right.
You'd have to prove that. So you'd have to either get rid of all of it, which then Joe Biden's nowhere near 270.
Right.
But neither president, if you were to get rid of all those states, would be able to get 270.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, what happens? I don't know. Somebody knows. I don't. But yeah, it's just very interesting. And then there's talk about Mike Pence and being good, bad, maybe not good. He got a letter at George H.W. Bush's funeral.
Well, he does seem like a rhino Republican.
He does.
He does in a lot of ways.
But there's just so much talk about him not being a good guy.
I know.
And it's just weird, and I don't know. But if this Lin Wood character is correct in any capacity, we're going to find out pretty soon.
Right.
And, I mean, soon. Because, I mean, soon means we're looking at, in my mind, I think you're looking at between January 6th and January 21st.
Yeah.
In my mind. But when we go back to some other crazy things that we've already talked about today with like the Nashville bombing, I mean, we talked about that. Like, what if that was a planned setup to make sure that this technology is set up to do what it needs to do? This was a test. Nobody got hurt, obviously. We know that.
Yeah.
This was a test to make sure the weaponry works the way we want it to, so when we have to use it in a few days to shut down everything so nobody can gain this information that is being released. Shoot. That was one theory out there, and I'm like, wow, that's plausible.
Right?
That makes sense because we all get our information the same way. We all get it from either the TV or our phones. Not many people go back to AM, FM radio to get information.
Right.
So if you shut down everything, the internet or the grid for all I know, you won't have access to any information for a while.
And even the AM and FM stations are getting their information from somewhere too, you know. Where's that going to go? And
they, obviously they have the same rules and guidelines of what they can and can't say. I mean, you can't swear, you can't just say whatever you want. And so, that's what that could all be just made up. But if that was the plan, to test this weaponry on a small target in a city to make sure you can hit this small target on the dot, with high structured buildings in a well-populated area in a matter of seconds. If you can make that happen, then the weaponry's great. It's good to go, and we can use it whenever we want. And to me, that's just telling the story for the next chapter, where we lose access to information, the information that we really need, the truth.
Yeah.
We lose the access to that, and we blame 5G conspiracy theorists because the story's already been created in the media that this guy was a 5G conspiracy theorist who was creating bombs to blow up 5G towers and things like that. So yeah, what a great story to just continue on when you need to get rid of all the information. You could cycle back, and once the internet turns back on, some crazy 5G conspiracy theorist blew up the main tower. When really, no, it was to hide the truth.
Yeah.
Again, it has been censored this whole time. I mean, the Hunter Biden situation is true. Hunter Biden has admitted to portions of it.
Yeah.
It has been in court already. Things have been proven. There is evidence. And yet Twitter, Facebook, both censored that story prior to the election. For a reason. People need to understand that. I don't care if you support Trump, hate him. I don't care if you support Biden, hate him. I don't care if you like politics or not. The fact of the matter is we have some very major companies out there, hierarchies, that are deciding what you get to know and what you don't get to know. Right. Every single human should be upset about that. Because eventually it becomes in one capacity, it's what you get to know and what you don't get to know. But on the other end, the people that are trying to tell you something, it's what they get to say and what they don't get to say. I mean, we are completely restricting people's rights to tell people what they think.
Right.
That's not a good thing.
Yeah, and you can go to sources like Infowars.com, and you can see, go to band.video, and you can get information there, about, the things that the media isn't talking about, and
right.
and all of the things that go on behind the scenes, but yeah, if they wipe out the internet, that's gone.
Oh, everything. So the majority, 99%, will not get informed.
We need to figure out a way to be informed. We need to figure out a way to where we can know what's actually going on, because there are AM stations out there that have radio news shows that are tied to intelligence and don't need the internet for getting that information.
Those tinfoil hats will come in handy.
Yeah.
Down the road, I'll tell you what. When you need them, we might need them. But no, man, I mean, obviously there's a lot going on in the world, and obviously we know that God's working all the time, though. And whether we can see it or whether we don't see it, I mean, it is a part of the plan. It is a part of the works. And yeah, I mean, the devil's doing every single thing he can do to try to stop the plan.
Yeah.
And I think we see that taking place right now. I think we see that amongst all of the things that we just can't find an answer to in the moment. The nice thing is though we know that the plan is the truth, the light. The light will shine on the darkness, and the dark will be no more. I mean, the truth will be revealed, and I think that's something that all of us
should look forward
to, not be afraid of.
Yeah.
To look forward to know what's really going on.
Yep.
I mean, to live a life of peace and not secret.
Right.
I think that would be very life fulfilling for everybody. And you won't have to hide in your secret anymore. I think that's exciting. And so obviously one thing I want to share, only because it really goes along with what we talked about in Ephesians in episode 2, and obviously there's just a lot of good that comes out of the Bible, but there's a lot of thought and a lot of, hey, just here you go, just pay attention. Just trying to let you know something. I mean, I told my kids that today in my class. I was like, guys, I'm not all knowing, but I'm pretty well versed in this specific content, like a certain content within our content, and here's some examples, and I just want you to trust me. Like, I don't care if you agree with me, but this is a real life experience, and I want you to trust me that going down these certain roads are not the best roads. And so we have those life conversations, and the beauty of that is that the Lord, through the Bible, has given us those same heads ups. Like, heads up. And so Malachi 4 verse 1, I don't know why I read this the other day, but I did. It came up somewhere, and here's what it says. It says, "See, the day is coming, burning like an oven, when all the arrogant and all the evildoers will be stubble. The day that comes shall burn them up, says the Lord of hosts, so that it will leave them neither root nor branch. But for you who reserve my name, the Son of Righteousness shall rise, with healing in its wings. You shall go out leaping like calves from the stall." And when I read that, I'm like, holy cow, we live in Northwest Iowa. Like, that's a great reference.
And it is a good reference, and it's a good visualization when you know how cows jump out of their stall. And,
like, people here listening to this,
to jump into the pasture.
You know what that looks like, that excitement. Like, that's awesome. And it finishes up by saying, "And you shall tread down the wicked, for they will be ashes under the soles of your feet on the day when I act, says the Lord of hosts." And so I want, for those on the fence or for those that don't believe, think about that image. That the evildoers, those who have turned their backs on God and given themselves to the devil, will be turned to ashes and be under the feet of those who love God. I mean, that's just powerful. That is truth. And like it says, the day is coming, burning like an oven. It's coming. It doesn't tell us when.
Right. I was just going to say, this day has always been coming.
And it never tells you when.
No.
So the question becomes are you ready? And what's very odd is the camper that blew up in Nashville. If you play the audio that was played through whatever speaker that it was presenting, like the evacuation message, if you play it backwards, it says, "Merry Christmas. Are you ready?" very odd.
Yeah.
And so when we think about it, and we really do think about the messages and the warnings and the like foreshadowments that Christ has given us through Old, New Testament, everything the Bible has told us, are we ready for that? Are you ready for that day? And if you're not, I think we'd like to help you.
Yeah.
I mean, ask some questions. Make some comments. Your question's just as good as the person next to you. I mean, how do you build a relationship with Christ in such an evil time? We can help you with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, obviously, a couple more thoughts, and then we'll close it up. Yeah.
I think pursuing a relationship with Christ is so comforting in this time. And I think it's so necessary. And I think I can speak for you on this too. It's just been in your face that much more since in these troubling times. Like, he's calling, and we need to answer that call, and we need to just do what he says and just be in the Word, and that's gonna keep our lives moving forward.
Yeah.
And when we don't have to be afraid of what's going to happen, because we can be so confident that we follow the one true Savior,
right?
Who will take away the sins of the world, who is going to make things beautiful and perfect again.
Right.
You know?
When you build that relationship, your worry just goes away.
It does.
And it's one of those things where, like, yeah, I mean, we're sitting here talking about all of this stuff. But I think one thing that might make us different than other people talking about this stuff is that obviously we give you the Bible. Because we're not worried about it. Uh-huh. We're not worried about these things. But we know that people will be. And that people will be scared and fearful and worried about what life's going to be like if we can't use our phones or the internet, or what's life going to be like if, we can't do this or that, or I can't have my nice car, or I can't buy gas, or I can't go to work, or whatever. And the reality is those are just things. You got those things, and those things can be taken away. Like my mom used to say, I brought you into this world, I'll take you out of this world. And in the reality of God is everything we have is rightfully his. I mean, he's given that to us in essence.
The famous passage that God provides for the sparrows. They don't have to worry. God provides for them, 100%. And they don't have to worry. God provides for everything,
right,
in nature. And we need to just tap into that.
Yeah. God provides. I think you could just sum it up like that. God provides. Whatever it is. I mean, you fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
God provides. Food. When it's necessary. Mm-hmm. When I think about, like, God provides protection. When it's necessary. I mean, I think about the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fire. It's like they didn't burn. They walked out of that fire.
Yeah.
And that's protection. When necessary in God's plan.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things like that in the Bible. There's a lot of things that are like that now that we just aren't writing.
Yeah, and you don't, you just don't see it.
Right. And going back to what you said, and I just want to make this known because it ties back to the message I had heard from Billy Graham that we talked about a while ago. And, like, how do you pursue a relationship is what you said. Like, how do you get into that? And the crazy thing is in that message I had heard that God will not force any of his creatures to be a certain way. He doesn't force us to be a certain way. That's why the devil was able to detach from God's plan. Because God didn't force the devil or make the devil be good.
Right.
We had the option. And so to pursue a relationship with Christ has to be a choice.
Right.
God's not going to force it upon you. You've got to make yourself pursue that relationship, and God will welcome it, and it will just open up that door. Mm-hmm. But you have to do it. You have to be that spark. You have to look for it. You have to want that. And I think that's the biggest thing. God's not going to make you do it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just important to know for especially people listening, but everybody. And if you want to jump into the Bible, I think there's 2 books you could start with. Genesis and Revelations. I think those would be a good start. Start with Genesis, what's going on, and then end it with Revelations. Find out what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Obviously, everything in the middle is highly important, and it really gives a lot of important information and guidance and messaging in regards to the plans that God has for everybody. But if you really want to have a good understanding of the devil and how he works, read Genesis and Revelations, because you learn about how he works against humanity in the garden, but you also read about God's plan and how the devil does not like that. And then you find out why the things that are going on in our world are happening, because they go against exactly what God asks us not to do throughout all of the stories in the Bible. I think it's very connected to our lives. Mm-hmm. And so hopefully people can get out there and do that. And so if not, we still love you. And that's the cool thing is never force anything upon you, but obviously we've had the good Lord in our lives for a while now, and again, that worry has dwindled. I mean, it's not like we're perfect. It's not like we don't worry at times, but the reminder that God's present in every moment, I think, is one of those things that can take a lot of worry from you in every moment.
Yeah.
No matter the moment.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. I mean, what else? Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, whenever that that worry or anxiety. Mm-hmm. Anxiety would be a better characterization, because that's a word that's used a lot today.
Oh, right, yeah, for
sure. You know, people have anxiety, and the cure and the quick-fire way the surefire way to cure that anxiety is a relationship with God.
Right.
And that's
just the truth.
The truth,
and that's our experience.
Yeah.
Both you and I in 2 different capacities.
Yeah.
But yet same results.
Right. So.
Yeah, and really when it comes down to it, I mean, we mentioned a lot of things that people would worry about.
Yeah.
We mentioned, symbolism that people don't realize. And that honestly, since the time we've pointed it out and to ourselves, we've seen it everywhere. I mean, it was evident that the ball in New York, the ball dropping, all pyramids, and I believe they had eyes in the middle of each one. If you look at it, I mean, somebody will go tell me I'm wrong, but go look at it. I'm pretty sure that happened on New Year's Eve. Obviously, the pyramid in the middle of the stage in Rockefeller Center where all the artists performed. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it was right there. It's obvious.
Yeah.
And so you can go out and see those things. And obviously, with a lot of those connections, we talked about some pretty sick things, like human sacrifice, in regards to people deciding that other people should be sacrificed for the greater of their God or for the greater of whoever. And
for whatever energy they're trying to summon.
Right. Whatever they're trying to accomplish in their own personal agenda, I mean, they're sacrificing children and other people. And I think one thing we can share with people as we start to close up here is we just came off of a holiday time where we were given as people a gift. And over time, the symbolism of our society has dampened the reality of that gift. I mean, Christmas is no longer about Jesus' birth and the gift to the world. It's about giving gifts to each other and buying Coca-Cola products and things to that nature. And I think we need to remember that God put Jesus on this earth not only to teach us as a gift to the people, but also to forgive us for everything that we're going to do wrong. Jesus is the only sacrifice that matters.
Mm-hmm.
And these other people are trying to play God by making the same choices God has made.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot play God. This is one creator you do not get to play. It cannot happen.
Right.
And so as we close up, just want to remind you that Jesus is the sacrifice for us, for you, for me, and not one of us is perfect. So we shouldn't beat ourselves up because we're not perfect.
All humans, every
one of them.
Everything on this earth has been tainted. It has been tainted by sin,
Mm-hmm.
and the only way that we can be saved is through Jesus.
100%. And
that's what he says. He says, he didn't create he created perfect man to be perfect.
Right.
In the beginning. He created man to be perfect, and
we failed.
And we failed. And our the people, the ancient people, they failed, and the earth was corrupt
100%.
before the flood. It says
there was a reason for the flood.
No, there was all flesh on the earth had been tainted.
Right.
Had been, and that's why God had to wipe it out.
Yep.
And get rid of those ancient civilizations that were, reaching for the stars.
And we're sacrificing. Doing all these things for the gods.
And building, these structures, on earth to summon the gods or
reach the heavens or whatever, yeah.
Because there are many deities out there that are categorized as gods.
Right.
And those are real deities.
Yep.
They are real.
And people really praise them.
And they can give power.
Yep.
But they don't give eternal life.
Nope. There's only one.
There's only one true God.
And that's why we're here.
Yep.
Just sharing that message, because the Bible tells us the time is coming. Now, the Bible has said that for a long time. It's just now the dots are connecting pretty firmly in regards to what's going on.
Corruption,
plagues, natural disasters, marks of the beasts that can be potentially considered the things we see in our world right now.
Yeah.
The list goes on. And so, we just recommend hopping into your Bible if you can, or asking us where to start. Geez, we could give you a list of places just to maybe think about. And so we just want to leave you with the fact that we know that God loves you. And we know that. And God loves everybody. Even the evildoers. He just wishes their hearts would change.
Mm-hmm.
But that's their choice.
Mm-hmm.
No creature will be made to do anything by God. We've been given the choice. So what choice are you going to make?
Amen, brother.
All right, man. Well, hey, thanks for listening.
Yep.
Tune in next time. Something tells me the next one we make, we're going to have a lot of information to share with people.
Yep.
So we will tune in with you guys later, and God bless you.
Thanks, guys.
Together with our differences, together we are bolder, braver, stronger.